Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Unplugged Woodworkers podcast. So what have I been up to? Kind of not what I want to be up to. I've been working in my mum's kitchen, so I've put a new floor down, new laminated flooring down for my mother. And I refinished the table. I built this oak table. It's kind of like a modern sort of oak table, basically. It was in a sorry old state, more so the top, and the legs, the bottom of the legs, obviously, when, they're getting kicked and whatever else, they were a little bit dirty and stuff. So I think this was maybe my second table I ever made. So it had Danish oil on it. The Danish oil didn't stand up very well. I don't think it did anyway. So I don't know, maybe about 5 hours I spent on that, and I basically just took a cord scraper, took all the old Danish oil off it. I sanded it by hand, just a quick sand. It didn't need a lot of sanding, and basically just put some Osmo oil on it. Just built the Osmo oil up, more so on the top than anything else. Obviously, it sees a lot of action. The table is obviously, my mum has the grandkids round, me brother's children and my sister's children, so it does see a lot of felt tips and coke and food and whatever else, so it does get a lot of abuse. So at the moment it has got 6 coats on the top. I might go overboard and I might give it some more, just to be super safe. You know what kids are like, so I might go the extra thing with that. I also was painting a cabinet doors for her, which I absolutely hate painting, but I was kind of doing that. She's kind of going for, she wanted like a midnight blue. I used chalk paints. It really didn't go very well at all. So much so I'm gonna pretty much sand it back, and I'm gonna try spraying them. I think I should have really went with a spray for the first knockings. My mum actually had a go at doing the cabinets herself. My mum's eyesight's really terrible through diabetes, and she made a really bad job of it, and then I come along and I made a just as bad of a job of it, if I'm honest. It really didn't go down too well, the chalk paint, so I'm going to try spraying it. I think spraying's going to be the answer. In fact, I know I'm going to get a better result with it all around. So I did get a video done today. This is a video of me sharpening a chisel. It's literally like 3 minutes long. There's no narration to it, although I did post some text just to say what I'm doing and everything. It is in real time, so I'm basically sharpening a chisel. I think it was me 1-inch chisel. Yeah, it was me 1-inch chisel. I get that sharpened in like 3 minutes. So there's a few pointers in the video. I don't use guides. I've never really used guides. I really just couldn't get away with them for some reason. And I just basically create a convex edge, basically. So if you want to check that out, there's obviously links to everything in the description. There'll be like a link tree, so you can basically click on that and that takes you to everything. Takes you to me TikTok, me Instagram, whatever else. Also to me free ebook. There's still people coming through and asking us questions, so there seems to be a lot of people that have kind of missed the fact that I've got this ebook and it's free. So there's still people asking us about the room and workbench. There probably always will be, but so for anyone that has missed it, the book's free. There's no sign up, no nothing. click on the link, you can go, you can read it. It's totally free. So what impressed me this week? So this week, I was delving through YouTube. So I am a bit guilty of not watching other people's work. I've been like that for maybe the last couple of years, and I should, because I do get a lot of inspiration from YouTube, or at least I used to some time ago. And I do like to see what other people are getting up to. It's always good to watch people, because I'm a visual learner, so I do learn things just by watching what's going on. So I really should be doing it. So anyway, I come across one of Jay Bates's videos. I think it's one of his most recent ones. I'm sure most of you will know who Jay Bates is. He's quite famous in the YouTube community for woodworking and whatnot now. So his latest video, if you haven't already seen it, go check it out. I really liked it. It's not so much the build, but it was more the concept of it. And this is basically, what's he calling it? He's calling it match fit workhorse. So if you check the video out, which I advise you do, it's a good concept. It's basically kind of it's a sawhorse basically, but it's the top's been widened. It's also been thickened, and obviously the height of the legs have been brought up to to give you just about waist height. So he's used the it's kind of like a lap joint, and it's cut at an angle. I can't remember the exact angle Jay Bates uses. I'm guessing probably somewhere in between 10 to 15 degrees. And obviously you've got the shoulder part, which is cut 90 degrees to that 15 degree line, and that sits underneath. And obviously, that takes away, so the underside of the bench is actually going to the end grain of that joint, which is obviously anyone who knows a little bit about things like that will know it's you want to be going to the long grain. It's going to be stronger. There's going to be less compression on the end grain. So we left the legs loose, basically, so you could transport it, basically, pull the legs out and basically stick it in the back of a car or the back of a truck, whatever. It's a pretty good idea. I mean, there was a few issues I seen with it, like pretty straight away. It was more the compression of the legs. Obviously, when you're using the bench in the way that bench is intended to be, obviously it's intended to do a little bit of everything. It's basically a mini portable workbench. So when you're playing and it's going to start racking, when it starts racking, you're going to start getting compression of the legs where the joint is. And also he used I think yellow pine, he used, so that's going to shrink as well. I mean, he was well aware of this. I can't remember what he mentioned of how he was going to get around that, but that was the first couple of things I spotted straight away before he even mentioned anything about it. But still, those things can be overcome. It's got some sort of a clamping mechanism. You've got a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of dovetail, dovetail grooves, kind of like a sliding dovetail, and they've got these clamps. I don't know what the system's called. Is it a match fit? It might be called a match fit. I'm not too sure, but it's basically you get these kind of G clamps. They slide along all these dovetails, grooves that are all over the place, and basically clamp things down. It is kind of like a clever system To be honest, I think this is more set towards kind of like the power, the power tool or the machine tool woodworker, basically. I mean, me being me, I looked at it straight away and I was like, I just didn't like the grooves all over, and I was like, I'd have holes here, like pretty much dog holes, to replace that. You could do and or, I think, with this. There's a lot of things you could do with it. I think the last video he done was kind of like all the accessories. There was like just a load of accessories to hold like work pieces, when you kind of when you're planning and stuff. But anyone that follows me and they've read the ebook I've got and followed us on YouTube, you'll know you kind of don't need all these accessories. You just need 3 pegs and a couple of wedges and you're away, basically. But check the video out, or even just go and have a look at the thumbnail, just to get an idea of what I'm talking about. Yeah, I must admit, I was really impressed when I seen it, even though it did have like a few issues, and for some reason, well, me being me, most likely, I wanted to build the thing minus all them grooves and whatnot, like. But this could actually be something people might want to look into if they haven't got the right tools, meaning, if they haven't got a lot of like wide like drill bits, if they haven't got a reamer, things like that. So basically, you could get away with basically making this a bench with what, say, saw, a brace and bits, a square, it wouldn't take a lot to basically to make that bench by hand, and basically suit it more for like an unplugged woodworker type of thing. Obviously, if you're going to do the grooves and everything, you're going to need routers and whatever else. I really wouldn't like to tackle that just with hand tools. And to be honest, there would be no need for it if you do use hand tools. But that's really good. I'd really check that out. Really, really good. I was really impressed with that. So sticking with that theme, I'm going to talk about sawhorses today. So when I was round at my mum's and I was painting these cabinet doors and the drawer fronts and whatever, I was using, it was just an old Roman workbench, and it's in a sorry old state. It was the one I built out of just some construction lumber. I think it was like two 9x2s, I glued them together. But they developed a really bad twist, and I never really used the bench. It's just been lying out in the sun, and it's in bad nick, to be honest. All the legs are loose, all the wood's like shrunk, and some of it's expanded, and the joints are loose, and whatever else. But it was still usable, so I was using it anyway. When I was doing that, I was thinking to myself, wouldn't it be good if I had something to elevate these on, like basically a couple of sawhorses where I could put something across, or like a mini table, so I was kind of thinking about that the other day, and just before I recorded this, I was going over a few things, going over my notes, and I basically spent the last like maybe 2 hours just like staring into space, constructing sawhorses in my head. Which I'm going to get into a little bit later. So I basically just going to go over a few things, a few sawhorses, designs I like, what I don't like, so on and so forth. So ironically, the first sawhorses I ever made were by Jay Bates. You've probably seen these. I think every man and his dog's done a video about these sawhorses. So these sawhorses are basically constructed out of 4x2s. You basically get 3 pieces of the 4x2s, and you basically make an eye shape with them. You can glue them or you can screw them, whatever your preference is. Get them lined up, so you've basically got an I-beam. Now that I-beam itself, that's super, super strong. Anyone that's like in construction or anything like that, or knows anything about like shapes and stuff will know, like that I-beam will take a lot of weight. Even with it being wood, it'll, I couldn't really give you any weights, but I just know it'll take a lot of weight. So with that, you basically cut your 4 legs and you'll feed the inside corner of one of the legs into the underside of the lip, of the eye shape. So you screw two, 3, whatever, however many screws you want to put in it at the top, and then you fix, you basically fix it where the leg face hits the bottom of the corner, the lip corner, if I'm making sense there. I think so. Anyway, those, you do that with the 4 legs. So, like, that was my very first, my very first sawhorses. So those basically were the ones that got me outside and got us in like the, wow, I like being out, like I like working outside, it's like kind of much better than being stuck in a shed, all these power tools and table saws. And obviously not long after that I discovered the Roman workbench. So I dare say if I was to build any more of that type of sawhorse, I probably could knock one up in maybe half an hour with hand tools. I would probably use a cordless drill, obviously, to drill in, to screw the screws in. But those are super simple, so anyone that wants any sawhorses, maybe just a beginner, you can basically, even as a beginner, I would dare say you could probably knock one of those up in an hour, maybe 2 if you're like super, super beginning, but they do have a few issues. I mean, they will start racking. You will get that rack and shake in them over time. You could maybe add some extra screws. They don't really seem to spread out that much in my experience. I know I've seen videos where people have actually added pieces of ply across the 2 ends of the legs, just to strengthen that up, to stop them from splitting. It's a pretty good idea, but I don't really think it's necessary on this design that way. If you've got enough screws in it, I mean, it depends on how much weight, and it depends like kind of what you're using it for, because I do know people actually stack a lot of material on these sawhorses. Some people do, where some people just use them just for sawing, what they were intended for. So it is still a good design. I mean, obviously, you're hitting on the underside of the I-beam section with end grain, so that does help to support it. You could even cut that to the correct angle, because he's on, I think his original, it wasn't cut to the correct angle. It might have been, I might be telling you lies, but mine on anyway. I've still got them. Obviously, I just don't use them. Thing I do like about these as well is that the stackable. I love any sort of gizmo thing like that. I'm trying to think of examples and I can't think of any, but basically anything that stacks nice and neat to be put away, I like that. Really, really like that. So I'll leave a link if you want to check the video out. It's like I say, they're just cheap and cheerful. Quick and easy to make. It's all straight cuts. As I said, it's good for anyone that wants that's just beginning, perhaps, or anyone that just wants them really quickly, wants them now. So the next one on the list This is actually a commercial one, and I think it's called Horse. I'm sure yous have seen it, and this is basically a folding sawhorse. It's super light. I think it's like £7. It's what's it made out of? I think it's a combination of kind of like yellow pine and maybe some fiberboard. I can't really tell with the videos. I've known about these for some time now. I would never buy one. I would make one of them, which I kind of did. I'm going to cover that in a minute, but this is actually a really, really clever design. When you look at it, it's just so light. The legs fold up actually kind of alongside the body, like alongside the length. So, you're kind of looking at something that's like maybe 8 inches by 8 inches square, and however long it is, I think it's like about a meter, something like that. It's a really clever design. When you pull the legs out, at either end, the two legs are on kind of it looks like a spring, and they have like a piece of dowel at either end of the spring to stop the legs from coming out. So when the legs fully open down to the ground at 90 degrees, they've got a groove, and the groove fits into another piece of wood that's housed into the bottom. It's kind of like an I-frame, just kind of what I've just been talking about, but the bottom of the lip doesn't go all the way through. It's only at either side. That's probably to keep the weight down and also to save on money in making them. But it works. It's quite good. And obviously, the more compression that gets put on these sawhorses, it's just the way they're designed. It just fights against each other. It just gets. I'm not really describing this very well, but basically you can take a lot of weight. The legs, they've got an actual. It's a solid metal piece. It's kind of like a rod. I mean, it's like a steel rod. It's or like a latch type of thing. It's maybe 2-3 millimeters. 2 screws either side, and it just swings round and it hooks into the screw, and that stops the legs from spreading. I believe they were tested. I'm sure it was £1,100. So. That's quite I'm sure you'll agree, it's quite a good design. It weighs £7, but yeah, it'll take one will take £1,100. You probably never need to use need to take £1,100. But it's just a testimony, I suppose, to the strength of these horses. So I kind of seen this. This was a few years ago. I can't remember how long ago it was. It was when I was still using power tools when I had my table saw, because I actually did like build a folding sawhorse. So mine was a bit different in the fact that mine had like a bit of a frame on the underside. So if you can imagine, basically a square box, but either side of the box was slanted, beveled rather. I think that was 10 degrees. I'm sure it was 10 degrees. I haven't got the sawhorse now. I used a really bad plywood, and basically it got left outside and the plywood just disintegrated. It was really cheap ply, so it got left outside and it just the legs disintegrated and everything else disintegrated. But I thought the design itself was pretty good. So it's, as I said, it was like a box shape, like a long box, if you can imagine. I think I made it about a meter long, maybe a little bit shorter than a meter. It was beveled. The two sides were beveled at 10 degrees. And this was just to accommodate the legs, basically, so the legs could be, when the legs folded out, at 10 degrees either side, to give some stability to the sawhorse. So the legs were fixed with just bolts and wing nuts. It seemed to do the job. And the top of the legs, they were rounded, obviously, so I could fold them in and out, and they butted against a piece of wood. That was just to kind of take the weight, obviously, of the downward force if you were like chiseling on it or anything like that. And it was the same with the back section as well. So obviously, when the legs went back, they would hit a piece of wood, and that piece of wood was angled, same again at 10 degrees. So you had a rake and splay at 10 degrees, and it was quite a sturdy thing. And I did actually steal the idea from the hider horse, to support the legs, with the steel rod. And what I actually used, I went to the pound shop and I bought some tent pegs. The tent pegs, what you use to basically to stop your tent from blowing away. These were extra long ones. As I said, they were only a pound. I think I've still got some of them left. And I just bent these over with a pair of pliers, and they've done the job. So that was a pretty good design, I thought. The only problem with it is that it would probably take too long. It wouldn't take too long to do by hand. It wouldn't. I mean, I'm just so impatient. I just wouldn't build it for the sake of, having a folding sawhorse. It's a kind of a bit of a catch-22. I really want one, and I really think, I would benefit from having them just by, being able to, pick them up, put them in the back of the car, and use them how I intended to use, or how I would have liked to have used one, the past few days when I've been, doing, bits and bobs of painting. They would have come in handy. Obviously, I could have just put some ply over the top, and I would have had an elevated platform, to paint on and to do whatever else on. Which leads us to the horse I want to make. So I said earlier, for the last 2 hours before starting recording this, I basically just sat and stared into space, thinking of ideas of sawhorses, and I kind of pondered on doing maybe a static one, where just a stackable sort of thing that doesn't fold down. But I just wouldn't be happy with that. I know I wouldn't be happy with that. So I've kind of went back to the idea, or rather the me original folding sawhorse. I've kind of went back to that, and I've just I've give that a good thought of how I could basically build it, but not take too long on it. I also wanted to be able to build. Not me. I also wanted other people to be able to build it quickly, whether it be someone who's been woodworking for years or someone who's been woodworking for weeks. I wanted it to be a relatively quick build. So basically, what I come up with, instead of creating the frame underneath, how I created it on the last video, I'll leave a link if you want to check the last video out. It was done on a table saw with power tools, but it's there if you want to check it out. So I used housing joints, and I mean, I suppose at the end of the day, I mean, it's not it wouldn't really take a great deal of time to do, but I think it would be quicker and easier for me and everybody else if I just made just basically sandwiched 3 pieces of wood together. So if I had 2 sections, they would be the 2 sides, and then I could basically have a section of wood, put a 10-degree bevel on either side of it, so basically it would look like it would fit into a sliding dovetail. Basically, that's what it would look like. And basically just cut some sections of that, cut 3 sections. I don't know, maybe, I'm guessing here, I would have to finalize this, but maybe 100 millimeters, at either end, and, maybe 100 in the middle as well. Sandwich that together with some glue, pop a couple of screws in it. Bob's your uncle, done, simple as that. Obviously, I would keep the way the legs connected to the main body exactly the same. Just use some nuts and some bolts and wing nuts. Same again, put the stops on, nice and easy. In my head it is anyway. Obviously, on the top you would have to plane down the two top sections of the box sections of the ends, basically, because those would now be up on an angle, because those were originally 90 degrees, so you'd have to plane them down like either side at 10 degrees, putting them down to an 80 degree angle. Obviously that wouldn't be too hard to do, and I think even a beginner would kind of do quite a decent job at it. So the material for this, the framework, I would use some type of pine or spruce 3/4 inch. That would be to keep the weight down. Possibly I'd hoist some on the top, same again, I haven't said that, I might even put some 3/4 inch oak on the top. I would have to say, it's the same again for the legs. I mean, I could put some European redwood or something, like for the legs, but part of us wants to use oak, because I know oak will last a very long time, but when I'm doing that, I'm just adding to the weight of it. So I would possibly, what I think I'm gonna do is possibly build the frame first, and if I've got like bits and bobs lying around of oak, I'm gonna try and get near enough the same sizes, put everything on a scale, and just kind of try and work out, or like kind of get a feel for the weight it's going to be, because if it's going to start becoming a struggle to move around, it's just pointless, because I'm lazy. You don't want to be struggling with things. I think, to be honest, I think the pine would probably be all right, as long as you kept it out of the rain and stuff. I don't know, I'll have to have a think about it, but that's kind of what I wanted to do with that Sawhorse. So I'm going to go over a couple that I don't like, a couple of designs I don't like, just a few things I've seen today when I was basically writing the notes and going over a few things of what I was going to talk about. So I come across a video and I seen this video, and this video said stronger and better Sawhorses. So, obviously I'm doing a bit of research, for this podcast. So I clicked on the video, and, I was checking out what the guy was doing, So basically the guy, if you can imagine a Sawhorse version of what I described with what Jay Bates had done, which is actually totally that's totally a Sawhorse that's been used for a lot of years. I think it's a really old design. They're actually quite good designs. I can remember seeing them when I was a kid. Obviously, I've worked in the construction industry for the last 23 years, so I've seen a lot of them on building sites as well. This type of Sawhorse, and it kind of looks a bit like a bird's mouth. As I described in the Jay Bates match fits workbench. that's basically what his workbench is. It's just basically an upscaled version of a sawhorse, the one I'm talking about right now. So that's what it looked like in this video this guy had done. So I'm kind of looking at it, me being impatient, obviously, I'm trying to, I'm writing me notes and I'm getting information and, stuff to talk about. So I started flicking through the video, and what the guy done, he actually, instead of making a bird's mouth, he actually just cut the whole kind of like 10 degrees or the 15 degrees, whatever degree you used, and he didn't put a bird's mouth on it. So is what he done, he kind of glued it, did he epoxy it? I think he epoxied it into place. He drilled 2 holes and then he put some dowel in it. So that doesn't sit very well with me, and obviously I'm sure there's probably a lot of listeners that'll probably agree with what I'm saying. It just doesn't sit well with me basically, because you're relying on that dowel to take the weight. A couple of taps with a, if you're sitting on top of it and you're chiseling, if you're a bit heavy-handed with the chisel, with a mallet roller, that glue line is just going to break straight away, because you haven't got a lot of you haven't got any fibers that are running in line with each other. You've got 90-degree fibers and you've got parts end grain as well, so it's not a great area to glue up. You can glue it and you will get a little bit of stability and whatever else, but in time, especially with a a couple of blows of a mallet, it's just going to break the glue line. What makes it even worse is that he hasn't cut the bird's mouth section, what I've talked about. Basically it's like an angled lap joint basically. So as I was saying at the start of this podcast, obviously the end grain sits underneath the work portion of the sawhorse or the bench, whichever way you want to think about it. So that's giving you the extra support. So without that, it's like you're relying on a dowel, and in time that it's just going to come loose. If you have a think about it, I don't really need to explain it. It's just I thought it was a really bad design, but so that's kind of one I didn't like. So there was a couple of others I seen as well. If you can imagine Jimmy DiResta's sawhorses. So Jimmy DiResta's sawhorses, these are stackable sawhorses. I quite like them, to be honest with you. So there was a lot of other designs similar to Jimmy DiResta's, but what I seen people were doing, people were actually screwing the side of the legs straight into the top of the, basically the top section of the workhorse. So if you look at Jimmy DiResta's, he's actually got his legs sitting underneath the worktop. So it's same again. You've got the underside of the worktop sitting on end grain. As I've explained on, there'll be a lot of people that basically know it's it's strong. It's transferring the weight down to the ground. The strongest piece, of a piece of wood's basically end grain. It's really, really strong. So I've seen people basically screwing through, into the top of the top of the side of it, and then they've done it to the end, and then they've put the piece of plyboard on the outside, and they've just fixed that as well. So I dare say it'll probably be okay, but if you put any sort of weight on it, it's, I personally think the wood will fracture, with the screws in, and it'll just burst out. It'll just come apart. That's what I think personally, and I've seen a few like that. it's the same again. If you're sitting on top of it and you start chiseling it, I think it wouldn't, maybe a day. Say you had like a half a dozen mortises to do. I think by the time you've done those half a dozen mortises, I think the sawhorse would be wrecked, basically, And I do know people do sit on a sawhorse and, they do things like this. So it might be something to consider, if you are building something like this and and you're a beginner and you see that, you might kind of want to consider not doing it. I did see another design. I might just be being biased with this one, but this is kind of a design. It's like a scissor design, so it does fold away, but then you've still got quite a big footprint. You've still got quite a big square footprint. So this is like a kind of these are like situated on hinges. The kind of like scissor out, if you like. And there's a couple like this. There's the ones where they just scissor out. I'm not too bad with those ones. I don't, I'm kind of on the fence with them a little bit because I do see the potential for them. But then you've got the other ones that kind of scissor out and they bite a piece of wood. They basically you put a piece of wood in it and it basically jams. So the more you open the legs, the kind of more just like bites into this piece of wood. And I really don't like those ones. I personally think if you put enough pressure on it, the top where it's biting the scissor parts, I think those have got the potential to snap. Especially if your wood's knotty, because a lot of these sawhorses do tend to be built out of construction timber, construction lumber, whatever you want to call it. It does tend to be knotty and it's not as strong as your types of hardwood. You would have to have a straight grain, and even with a straight grain, you're not fully guaranteed. So I mean, you could use them for other things. I mean, but if I was building a sawhorse, which I do plan on doing a video of the one I was describing earlier, I wouldn't be building one of these. That's kind of me. That's my personal preference. I think I've rabbited on enough today, so I'm going to call it. So if you can, it would be awesome. Let us know what you want to hear. Any ideas, any questions, anything like that would be absolutely awesome. Leave a comment on YouTube, on Instagram, Facebook, wherever you's like to get in contact with us, whatever. Send us a message on Instagram, Facebook, whatever. And until the next time, I shall speak to you later.